Hi there, I'm Mike. What I have for you today is Star Wars The Black Series 40th Anniversary Empire Strikes Back Hoth Rebel Soldier, or Rebel Soldier Hoth. So back in 2017, Hasbro decided to celebrate the 40th anniversary release of Star Wars A New Hope with these retro-style Black Series figures. Instead of being in boxes, this line had the card backs with the blisters, like the old school nostalgic cards we had back in the 80s and 90s. This is how we bought toys back in the day, not this newfangled box stuff. A lot of them were figures we'd had in the line before, but there were a couple of new surprises in there, just like the Star Wars Special Editions. The surprise was worseness. So Hasbro decided to do the same thing 3 years later. So what we have is the Empire Strikes Back logo on these cards, and these are basically re-releases of figures, in some cases with better face sculpt, but we're also getting some new figures, and this is one of those, and I was very excited to take a look at these. So let's go ahead and pop this out of the blister card. Now, if you're not sure how to do that without damaging this, as you can see right here, I have a nice carded blister, but what I did was I actually cut the sides, the bottom, and then you can just actually slip out the tray just like this. So you have everything pretty much still intact. So here he is out of the packaging. There's no bio on these cards. Unfortunately, the back of the card is just sort of a recreation of what card backs used to look like with figures of the wave. So there's nothing to really read here. This figure of the Hoth Rebel Soldier is sort of an amalgamation of the heroes that lined the trenches on Hoth in front of Echo Base to fend off the Empire's attack while their friends escaped. The rebels were never going to win that battle. That's the whole point of it. They went there to stand in the trenches in hopes of staving off and giving their friends enough time to run away. They were never going to win. There wasn't going to be a heroic victory. They were just, I hope I don't die. These guys were heroes, to say the least. The Black Series is no stranger to troop builders. We've had a couple in the past. Most recently, we've had like the Rebel Fleet Trooper. We've also had tons of like Stormtroopers and things like that. But the difference here is Stormtroopers are all maskless troops. You can have tons of them, not worried about them all looking the same, because they all look the same. They're just troopers with helmets on. But when you have figures like this, figures with faces, the fact that they're all the same person tends to stand out. I've always said something along the lines of, I wish Hasbro would release chase variants or different versions so I could buy multiples without feeling like I just have a clone battalion of the same dude hanging out on my shelves. And Hasbro heard that, and they answered. So when it comes to looks here, there's a lot to unpack. This is the figure as he comes out of the box. This fresh baby-faced Hoth Trooper is the same one that's depicted on the packaging for the figure. He's got goggles on his hat. If you want to, you can take those goggles off. You can also put them on his face. Alternatively, in the package, he has a scarf. If you want to, you can put the scarf on him. The head pops off very easily and the scarf goes in between the neck joint and the head. You can put it so it points down if you want to be wearing the scarf without having the scarf on his face, or if you want him COVID compliant, you can flip that over so the scarf goes over, and that way he can go to the grocery store without worrying about getting infected or infecting others. Alternatively, if you want to, you can have him with the goggles down and the mask on, or with no goggles and no mask. So there's a lot of different options here, but that's just with this face. So he still has the same face, but a couple different ways to display him. This is where Hasbro got crazy. What they did was, in his backpack, if you take it off, there's a hidden compartment on the back of the backpack. In that is a severed face. That's right, this man is a serial killer who's walking around with severed faces in his backpack. Kind of like Zartan, or like a faceless person from Game of Thrones. You know, that's just how he rolls. Gruesomeness aside, I honestly think that this is brilliant. The way they did this was just amazing. To change the face out, I recommend making sure you have the goggles off, just because I don't want to stretch the goggles out too much, and it's a lot easier to not deal with it with the goggles on. Next, the hat pops right off, and that leaves the face. You can just pull it forward, and then you have the scary nightmare fuel, but you can pop in the alternate face on here. So this face has a beard. Between the two, I'm not supposed to play favorites. Actually, I can. It's my collection. This is my favorite face. I like this face better than the other, but they're both good. Honestly, the faces are incredible. This is top tier, pinnacle face sculpting and digital painting from Hasbro. Hasbro's done a stellar, fantastic job with just making this look like a person's face. Now, I don't think it looks like anyone specifically, although I think the bearded one might look like a guy that works for Hasbro. I remember them saying something during the Toy Fair reveal, but I honestly couldn't be bothered to look at it, and I don't care. But the same display options appear on this as well. Goggles up, goggles off, goggles down, scarf up, scarf down. Both scarf and goggles on. You can do whatever you want to. I count at least 18 different combinations you can pull off with all these accessories and alternate faces. This is way more than I could have asked for. I love what they did here. It really lends well to wanting to buy multiples of these figures so that you can have as many as you want on your shelf. I actually ordered 2 here. And full disclosure, I still have 2 on order from the original order I put in for Wave 2. So I'm at least going to have 4, maybe more. So if the different look options didn't sway you, let's take a look at the rest of his accessories, because on top of the goggles and on top of the scarf, he also comes with the backpack, which I briefly mentioned. The backpack itself sits on his back. The peg on the back is square instead of round, which I'm not a fan of. It feels weird to take it off. Not putting it on, but taking it off feels like I might break it because I tend to want to twist them off. But if you do that, it's square. Squares don't twist. On top of that, the front of his shirt is supposed to like attach to the backpack, but it didn't come attached and I can't get it attached. The material on his shirt is too flimsy and soft to really firmly plug into the backpack, but you can get it in there and it will sit fine, but it tends to come unplugged. But it's also something you don't really notice unless you're actually looking at it. So not a big deal. The backpack itself is white plastic with some shiny gray paint on the controls and on the antenna. It's got molded hoses. It's got gray paint over the seams. There's a lot of really great sculpted detail in the backpack. It's a fantastic accessory, and unlike any other backpack in the Black Series, this one has a use because it stores the excess face. And that's cool because in the past, when you have extra accessories you're not going to use, I usually put them in the box that they came with. Then when I want to use them, I have to fish it out of my closet or down in my garage. It's a hassle. But on top of those clothing accessories, he also comes with 2 blasters. The first one in his hand is the classic Hoth Rebel Soldier A280 blaster. This is the one you see the most in the movie. This is solid gray double plastic with a lot of great molding. I believe this is the first time we've actually seen this blaster in the Black Series line. I would have liked it to have some paint on it. I would have liked it to be molded in a black plastic rather than this gray. I'm not a fan of this gray. I also think it should have had some sort of strap on there. In pretty much every toy I've ever had of the Hoth Rebel Soldier, it has a strap on it. When you go Google images of it online, they have straps on it. So it's kind of weird that it doesn't have the strap here. It also would have been nice to have the strap so you can put it over his shoulder so he doesn't have to carry it. Alternatively, if you don't want to use the A280 blaster, he comes with the DH17 blaster. Now this blaster, I always forget the name of because it's a boring blaster. In fact, when I need to look up the name for it, I literally typed in Google generic Rebel blaster and this is the blaster that popped up. It knew exactly what I was looking for. No, I'm not knocking it. I'm glad he comes with 2 blasters. It gives more options for displaying your different Hoth Rebel soldiers depending on how many you have. Maybe some of them are carrying this blaster. Maybe some of them are carrying both blasters. You have a lot of choices here and the blasters help augment that. But this blaster right here, we've had it like 300 times now in the Black Series line. Tons of figures have come with this blaster. This is probably the worst of them. I mean, the sculpting is the same, but just like the A280, he has no paint on it and it's sculpted in that same gray plastic. Very boring. Now, just like the other blaster, it fits well in his hand and that's fine, but it also fits in the holster on his leg. But it's also one of the worst holsters of the entire line. First, it's actually a sculpted part of his skirt. It's molded and attached to that skirt shirt piece. And then that is glued to his leg, which essentially glues the skirt to his leg. It's also weird that it only holds it in just this little area. I feel like it should have had another strap up here to secure it in the holster. If you were running with this, it would be flopping around. That's not a very good holster for many reasons. But speaking of articulation, I pointed at a couple pieces. Let's take a full look at that articulation. His head is double hinged at the base of the neck and at the shoulders. It moves forward that far, back that far, has a waggle, and can turn all the way around. His shoulder can move out that far. It moves all the way around. It does have a pretty decent butterfly joint as well. He has a greater than 90-degree bend at the elbow, a swivel at the elbow, a swivel, and a hinge at the wrist. This wrist hinges this way. He has a torso joint. It allows for a swivel side to side. It moves forward that far, back that far. His leg can move forward that far, back, kinda. This one doesn't really move all that much at all. He has an upper thigh rotation, a double jointed knee, a hinge, and a rocker at the ankle, with this being the Hoth Rebel Soldier's widest stance, with both his feet flat on the ground. So yeah, he's got some pretty standard, by today's standards, Hasbro Black Series articulation. He's got the double jointed neck, so you can get a lot of range of movement there. He's got the butterfly joints on the shoulders, which is fantastic. The biggest problem here is just that leg. If it weren't for that leg, honestly, he would be pretty much perfect. But on the plus side, I will say that unlike the Hoth Luke and Hoth Han that we've had in the line way long ago, he actually has proper wrist articulation. I don't know why when Hasbro released the Hoth Han and Hoth Luke, the hands and the wrists were molded one piece and it just swiveled. It didn't have any hinge on the wrist at all. Thankfully, Hasbro didn't do that. We actually have proper wrist articulation here. Even the updated Han with the better face and the fur has the same poor wrist articulation. So we definitely need new updated versions of those, because Hasbro, that wrist articulation is bad and you should feel bad. Also on the plus side, despite having a backpack, he's not back heavy. I was a little worried about that as well, but he's fairly well balanced. I don't think he's gonna fall over unless something really shakes him or something falls on him. But it is a problem sometimes when you have Hasbro sacrificing the sculpt for articulation, like we have with the leg here. And that's something that I wish Hasbro would address more. Sculpt is nice, but not when it hinders articulation. But while we're at it, let's go ahead and take a look at the sculpt of this figure. I've already talked about how fantastic the faces are, but let's start from head to toe and just work our way down. First, that hat is fantastic. There's a lot of opportunity for a lot more detail and sculpt and paint on there. We have the white and gray working well together. The band coming down the side of the hat on this is molded plastic, unlike the Luke Skywalker where it was a soft goods one. I have to say I've never been a fan of that soft goods one. I know a lot of people are, but I feel like that soft goods band isn't heavy enough to hang properly, and it just kind of ends up hanging weird, whereas this will always hang well, but it also doesn't move at all, and I'm fine with that. I actually prefer the detail in the sculpt and all the wrinkles on that hard plastic one rather than a soft goods one. The torso is actually made up of layered pieces of molded plastic and rubber. If you take the backpack off, you can see that, because the shirt actually really only comes to like the top of his shoulders, and then the back, it looks like he's wearing a weird smock. So it kind of sucks if you want to take the backpack off to get another option for displaying your figure. It looks fine from the front, but from the back, it looks like a mess. It's got some weird things hanging off there and you can't do anything with them. So there's some weird choices there, but with the backpack on, he looks fantastic. There's a lot of great sculpted detail and wrinkles and seams in the torso. You have that control center on his chest painted well, and whatever these capsule things are down here are painted with precision. On his right arm, he has these different colored, I don't know if that's rank or something, but there's blue and gray and red in there. He's got a sculpted pouch. He's got that quilted pattern sculpted and painted on. There's a lot of beige and a lot of white and a lot of gray, and I'm confident in those colors because I asked my wife what the colors were, and she told me, and she wouldn't lie to me. On the left arm, it's pretty much the same, but not. That little rank thing isn't there, but there is the sculpted pattern all the way down, and then he has some sort of control panel on his wrist, which is just a neat little touch. His belt and skirt area, again, is molded in that rubber plastic, the same as his shirt. It has silver on the buckle. He also has sort of a gray beige on the pouch. Then he's got his gray pants. It's got wrinkles in that quilted pattern molded right in. And then on the bottom, we've got those classic Hoth boots. Something about those Hoth boots always reminded me of like a combat ballerina. I don't know if it's the way it's laced up to his calves, but I imagine him doing a pirouette on the battlefield. I love troopers. I love the generic troopers. I've always loved stormtroopers. I mean, you can't really have an army unless you have those troop fillers. And I'm so glad that Hasbro gave this to us. The original trilogy has had 3 very different, but all very iconic looking generic trooper. And I really hope that Hasbro takes what they've done here and applies it to the Endor Trooper. I think that could be amazing. I just really love the prospect of filling my shelves with different looking dudes, and they're not all just clones of each other. Unless they are clones, in which case I'd be okay with that. But these guys aren't. They're not clones. So if you want to pick one of these up, they're on pre-order, available pretty much everywhere. For whatever reason, Dorksidetoys got cases of just these available to purchase way early. I mean, Wave 1 isn't really out yet. This guy is part of Wave 2, and that's not supposed to be out till August. So I have no idea why they got theirs early, but I'm very happy to get it, and I honestly can't wait to get more. But if you want to get yours, check Dorkside. If they don't have any in stock, I'm pretty sure you can still pre-order them anywhere. But I do think that you might want to pre-order more than one if you only have one pre-ordered. He's part of the standard collection, so he retails for about 20 bucks. And for that 20 bucks, you get a lot. I mean, you get enough accessories to make at least 5 or 6 other troopers easily. For me, the value here stands out. It's definitely worth the money. So much worth the money that I don't mind that I bought multiples. I'm not usually a guy that buys more than one figure. So that just says an awful lot about this figure. So because of that, I'm gonna give this figure a 4.5 out of 5. I really, really, really want to give this guy the full 5 points and overlook the flaws I have with him. But in the very end, the few flaws I have with him are significant enough for me to dock him just a bit. But by no means do I think that should take away from what this figure does and what this figure accomplishes. I really, really hope that Hasbro keeps this direction up with the Black Series line. This is pinnacle Black Series right here. This is pretty much everything I could have wanted from the line. But Hasbro, stop doing this. This is bad. Stop that. Also, I want more figures with severed faces in their backpack. I never knew I wanted that, but I want it. And with that, that's it for my Star Wars The Black Series Rebel Soldier Hoth review. Let me know down in the downstairs area. Did you pick this up from Dorkside? Or do you have it on pre-order? Did I convince you to pre-order it? I love to read and respond to all those comments down in the downstairs area. I'd also like to take a moment to thank these people here for supporting me on Patreon at a Black Series level or higher. Thanks a lot, guys. The support really does mean a lot to me. If you want to see your name up here, or if you want to support the channel in other ways that don't cost money, there are ways down in the downstairs area as well, such as liking, sharing, subscribing, hit the bell if you want to see more videos when I upload them. All of that stuff goes to help out the channel as well, and it doesn't cost anything. With that, that's all I've got. Thanks for getting this far, and I'll see you later. Bye.